students, I am here today in the TV studio of AIOU to help you understand the second unit of your course, Educational Psychology. As you all might remember, we talked about the nature and scope of educational psychology in our last lecture. We shall now take the topic forward to discuss the concepts of growth and development during childhood and adolescence. Let's begin first by identifying the meanings and natures of two terms, growth and development. What are the meanings of growth and development? Most of us use the two terms growth and development interchangeably and accept them as synonyms. Both these terms relate to the measurement of changes occurred in the individual after conception in the womb of the mother. An individual starting from a fertilized egg turns into a full-fledged human adult. In this process, he or she undergoes a cycle of changes brought about by the process of growth and development in various dimensions: physical, mental, social, etc. Therefore, in the wider sense, both the terms growth and development can be used for any change brought about by maturation and learning. However, the two concepts are not entirely similar. Let's look at each of these in detail. Dear students, what are the meaning of growth? Growth is a sign of life. All living animals, irrespective of their status in the biological hierarchy, have to grow. The term growth is used in purely physical sense. It generally refers to an increase in size, length, height, and weight. Growth is one of the parts of the development process. In the strict sense, development in its quantitative aspect is termed as growth. Growth may be referred to describe the changes which take place in particular aspects of the body and behavior of an organism. Growth does not continue throughout the life. It stops when maturity has been attained. The changes produced by growth are subjects of measurement. They may be quantified and are observable in nature. Growth may or may not bring development. A child may grow in terms of weight by becoming fat. By this growth may not bring any functional improvement. Let's look at this example. What are the meaning of development? Development, by contrast, refers to qualitative and quantitative changes. It may be defined as a progressive series of orderly changes. Webster Dictionary defines development as the series of changes which an organism undergoes in passing from an embryonic stage, maturity. This change refers to physical, emotional, intellectual changes which shall be discussed as. Development implies overall changes in shape, form, or structure resulting in improved working or functioning. It indicates the changes in the quality or character along with the quantitative aspects. Development is a wider and comprehensive term. It refers to overall changes in the individual growth. Development describes the changes in the organism as a whole and does not list the changes in parts. Development is a continuous process. It goes on from the womb to the tomb. It does not end with the attainment of maturity. The changes, no matter how small, may continue throughout the lifespan of the individual. Development simply implies improvement in the functioning and behavior and hence bring qualitative changes that are difficult to be measured directly. They are assessed through keen observations of behavior in different situations. Development is also possible without growth. As we see in the cases of some children, that they do not gain in terms of their height, weight, or size, but they do experience functional improvement or development in physical, social, or intellectual aspects. These are essentially the fundamental differences in the concepts of growth and development. We shall now look at the defining principles of these two terms. What are the principles of growth and development? There is a set of principles that characterizes the process of growth and development. These principles or characteristics describe typical development as a predictable and orderly process. That is, we can predict how most children will develop and that they will develop at the same rate and at about the same time as other children. Although there are individual differences in children's personalities, activity levels, and timing of developmental milestones, the principles and the characteristics of development are universal patterns. Development proceeds from the head downwards. A child first gains control of the head, then the arm, and then the legs. Infants develop control of the head and face movement within the first 2 months after birth. In the next few months, they are able to lift themselves up by using their arms. By 6 to 12 months of age, infants start to gain leg control and may be able to crawl, stand, or walk. Coordination of arms always comes after the coordination of legs. Development proceeds from the center of the body outward. This means that the spinal cord develops before outer part of the body. The child's arm develop before the hands, and the hands and the feet develop before the fingers and toes. Fingers and toes muscles are the last to develop in physical development. Development depends on maturation and learning. Maturation refers to the sequential characteristic of biological growth and development. The biological changes occur in sequential order and give children new abilities. Changes in the brain and nervous system account largely for maturation. These changes in the brain and nervous system help children to improve in thinking and motor skills. Also, children must mature to a certain point before they can progress to new skills. For example, a 4-month-old cannot use language because the infant's brain has not matured enough to allow the child to talk. By 2 years old, the brain has developed further, and with help from others, the child will have the capacity to say and understand words. Growth and development is a continuous process. As a child develops, he or she adds to the skills already acquired, and the new skills become the basis for further development and mastery of skills. Most children follow a similar pattern. Also, one stage of development lays the foundation for the next stage of development. For example, in motor development, there is a predictable sequence of development that occur before walking. The infant lifts and turns the head before he or she can turn over. Infant can move their arms and legs before being able to hold an object. Mastery of climbing stairs involves increased skills from holding on to walking alone. By the age of 4, most children can walk up and down stairs with alternating feet. Growth and development proceeds from the general to specific. In motor development, the infant will be able to grasp an object with the whole hand before using only the thumb and forefinger. The infant's first motor movements are very generalized, undirected and reflexive, waving arms or kicking before being able to reach or creep towards an object. Growth occurs from large muscles movement to more refined muscle movements. Hopefully by now your understanding of the concept of growth and development will be much clearer. Growing further on these two concepts, we will now look at the idea of maturity and its effect on learning. Maturation is an important factor which influences learning. A behavior is said to have matured if a behavioral sequence develops through regular stages. The swimming of tadpoles and the flying of birds can be attributed mainly to maturation. But in the case of human beings, it is not easy to decide whether the activities result from maturation of learning. A child learns to talk only when he reaches a certain age. However, he does not learn the language just because he attains the age. The language which he learns is that which he hears. Thus, the two processes, maturation and learning, are closely related to each other. Maturation facilitates the process of learning. Learning becomes effective when appropriate maturity has been attained. Learning takes place only if the stage for the type of learning has been achieved through a process of maturation. A teacher should know how to differentiate between maturation developments with that of changes due to learning. For example, our typical human brain develops with age. It is a maturation process, but our knowledge and habits are acquired through stimulus response activities, or in other words, learning. Maturation is important for learning. Before we learn anything, our sensory, motor and nervous structures should attain a certain level of maturity. For example, we cannot make an infant run simply because he has not acquired the appropriate maturity. So until a certain level of maturation is acquired by the child, training or learning may be of no avail. Now let's look at the physical and mental growth in children and adolescents as the part of human development. What is physical and mental growth? Children grow in natural, predictable steps, moving from one milestone to the next. You can see them gain in 5 major areas. What is emotional and social development? Emotional and social development begins at the age of 2 with excitement about being around other children. But most children at the age play near each other rather than with each other. By age 5, most children seek and enjoy friendship. Physical development slows down from the rapid growth during infancy from age 2 through age 5. Most children gain about 1.5 kg to 2.5 kg a year and grow about 3 inches a year. Cognitive development, or thinking or reasoning skills, progresses from a simple to a more complex understanding of time, letters, counting and colors. Children are able to follow increasingly more detailed commands. Language develops rapidly between age 2 and 5. By age 3, children can speak at least 200 words and can follow 2-part directions such as wash your face and put your shoes away. Most 5-year-olds can carry on a conversation. Sensory and motor skills become more refined from being able to walk upstairs, kick a ball and draw simple strokes to being able to do basic tumbling and drawing rough figures of people and other recognizable objects. Having looked at physical and mental development, it's time we move to the last component of this unit, the development of language. How language develop? All children in every culture master the complicated system of their native language, unless several physical problems interfere. This knowledge is remarkable. At the least, sounds, meanings, words and sequences of words must all be coordinated before a child can communicate effectively in the conversation. It is likely that many factors such as biological, cultural, play a role in language development. However, the important point is that children develop language as they develop other cognitive abilities by trying to make sense of what they hear and by looking for patterns to put together the jigsaw puzzle of language. What are the components of language and pronunciation? The majority of first graders have mastered most of the sound of their native language, but a very few may remain unconquered. Young children may understand and be able to use many words, but prefers to use the words they can pronounce easily. The average 6-year-old has a vocabulary of 8,000 to 14,000 words, growing to about 40,000 by age 11. In fact, some researchers estimate that the students in their early grades learn up to 20 words a day. School-age children enjoy language games, jokes that play on words. In the early elementary years, some children may have trouble with abstract words such as justice or economy. They may take statements literally and thus misunderstand sarcasm or metaphor. Airy tables are understood simply as stories instead of as moral lesson. For example, pragmatics involves the appropriate use of language to communicate. For instance, children must learn the rule of turn-taking in conversation. Young children may appear to take turns in conversation, but if you listen in, you realize that they are not exchanging information, only talk time. In later elementary school, children's conversation start to sound like conversation. Children master the basics of word order or syntax in their native language early, but the more complicated forms such as the passive voice take longer to master. By early elementary school, many children can understand the meaning of passive sentences, yet they do not use such constructions in their normal conversation. Other accomplishments during elementary school include first understanding and then using complex grammatical structures such as extra clauses, qualifiers, and conjunctions. Dear students, that's the end of today's lecture. Until next time, Khuda Hafiz from the TV studio of AIOU.